At the betrothal banquet, my fiancé presented me with a hairpin. He claimed to have crafted it himself over 3 months, and all the guests praised his dedication. I accepted it with a smile, only to discover a tiny mark on the pin. It was my younger half-sister's childhood name, Ian. At that moment, my half-sister flashed me a defiant grin. I too curved my lips slightly, then raised the hairpin without hesitation and declared aloud, "This hairpin must have been given to the wrong person. My name doesn't contain the character Ian." The betrothal banquet was grand in scale. The marriage between the Yongchang Marquis' household and the Deputy Minister of Rights' household drew nearly every prominent figure in the capital. Cups clinked and toasts were exchanged amidst cheerful conversation and laughter. My fiancé, Pei Xiaoheng, stood like a sturdy pine in his brocaded robe. With a gentle smile, he drew a jeweled box from his sleeve. As he opened it, a hibiscus hairpin lay within, shimmering with radiant colors that drew gasps of admiration from the entire hall. Everyone praised Pei Xiaoheng's thoughtfulness and declared how fortunate I was. I too smiled, ready to accept this blessing. But Pei Xiaoheng did not personally place the hairpin upon my head. Instead, with a flick of his wrist, he set the brocade box upon the table. "Yuan, be careful. Don't damage it." Pei Xiaoheng's gesture caused both sets of elders to frown. The quince hairpin was exquisitely beautiful. Pei Lang had truly gone to great lengths. I paid it no mind. He exhaled in relief and quickly stepped back. Naturally, I hadn't had time to examine the contents of the brocade box closely. I pretended to admire it fondly, flipping through it as if by chance, my gaze casually sweeping over the inner side of the pin. There, a fresh engraving stood out. The tiny character Ian pierced my eyes. "Sister, look! This quince-patterned hairpin is all the rage in the capital. I got one, would you like to see it?" Xinyan's words from 3 days ago echoed in my ears. And at that moment, she wore an identical quince hairpin in her hair. I lifted my head, peering over Pei Xiaoheng's shoulder, and spotted Xinyan not far away. She wore a water-red gown, her chin lifted slightly. Those eyes, so similar to mine, now brimmed with smugness and provocation. Trends? All a sham. Showing off? That's the real game. The heartfelt gift Pei Xiaoheng spent 3 months crafting by hand? Just a second-hand item. Leftovers she rejected. Xinyan even silently uttered 3 words. "Like it?" No need to guess, Pei Xiaoheng must have personally made 2 crabapple hairpins. One engraved with the character Ian, given to her in advance. The other, presented to me today as an engagement gift. But Xinyan couldn't resist stirring up trouble. She swapped the 2 hairpins and deliberately came to flaunt them in front of me early. Even if I hadn't noticed the Ian engraved on hers, seeing the identical crabapple hairpin would have revealed the trickery. Xinyan dared to pull the stunt in front of everyone precisely because she knew I'd swallow my pride. But that suits me just fine. Then, let's play it up a notch. I abruptly stood up, holding the golden hairpin high in my hand, my smile still perfectly composed. "Mr. Pei, I fear this hairpin was given to the wrong person." The chatter and laughter of the entire hall abruptly ceased. Every pair of eyes instantly focused on me. "Sister, what do you mean? Mr. Pei's craftsmanship is still unpolished. Of course, it can't compare to the treasures from the precious treasure pavilion you usually wear." Xinyan abruptly rose, her expression disapproving. Pei Xiaoheng smiled at Xinyan, then turned to me with a hint of melancholy. "It's not your fault. My craftsmanship is lacking." This response stirred pity among the guests. Their gazes toward me now carried a touch of reproach. "Is that so?" I turned to Xinyan, flashing an innocent smile. "My name doesn't contain the character Ian. Dear Sister Ian." I deliberately emphasized the word Ian, enunciating it clearly. The flower hall, previously filled with murmurs, fell instantly silent. Countless gazes darted between the three of us. The color drained instantly from Pei Xiaoheng's face. He opened his mouth. Yet no sound emerged. He merely stared fixedly at the hairpin, as if seeing that deadly engraving for the first time. As for my dear half-sister Shanine, the defiance and smugness from moments before had frozen rigid on her face, replaced instead by terror and panic. Slowly, I lowered the hand holding the hairpin, my gaze sweeping calmly over every person present. It finally settled on Pei Xiaoheng, whose face was ashen. "Young Master Pei," I said, "this hawthorn hairpin engraved with the character Yin, so exquisitely crafted, so painstakingly made over such a long time, should be returned to its rightful owner. Let it be given to the one who truly deserves it." I emphasized the words exquisitely and long with deliberate weight. The phrase "return it to its rightful owner" struck like a boulder into stagnant water, instantly sending ripples across the surface. The elders from both families, their expressions shifting from initial shock to grim pallor, then forced composure. "Nonsense." My father spoke first. His opening words were a rebuke of my lack of propriety. "Yun, is a betrothal banquet a game?" Apologized to Prince Pei and the guests at once. "It's just a hairpin, what's the big deal?" "A hairpin? Indeed. It's nothing." I took up my father's words, nodding vigorously. Just as they were about to breathe a sigh of relief, I changed tack. "But 3 days ago, I saw Sister Yin wearing the exact same hairpin. Is that nothing too?" This question left my father speechless. After several gasps, he finally forced a smile. "You see, it was all a misunderstanding. Since matters have come to this, I shall not conceal anything from you all." He drew a deep breath, his gaze sweeping the hall as if gathering resolve. "Truth be told, our elders have long discussed this. Yin is gentle and virtuous, and she and Yuan share a deep sisterly bond. In time, they shall both marry into the Marquis's household. Like the legendary sisters Huang and Nuying, theirs will be a tale of beauty and harmony." The Marquis of Yongchang's wife hurriedly rose and descended the steps. She explained that 2 hairpins had been made originally, one for me and one for Shanine. "It must have been a servant's mistake, mixing them up." My mother chimed in at the perfect moment, her tone tinged with reproach for my apparent thoughtlessness. She mentioned how I was always busy with official duties and rarely returned home. All these years, it was Shanine who had shown them filial devotion and cared for Pei Xiaoheng. Now, with her marrying alongside me, they would have each other to rely on in the Marquis's household. "You should be thanking Iner." At her mother's words, Shanine instantly regained her composure. A flicker of satisfaction crossed her eyes as she rose gracefully and offered me a gentle curtsy. "Sister, I dare not compete with you. I only hope that in the Marquis's household, I may continue to serve at your side and ease your burdens." What a picture of sisterly devotion! I looked at her and suddenly let out a soft laugh. Do father and mother think these years as a court lady were wasted? The law decrees, any betrothed maiden who, having submitted marriage documents or made private agreements, then reneges, shall receive 60 strokes of the cane, even without formal betrothal papers. Accepting betrothal gifts is equally binding. Shanine and Pei Xiaoheng had no betrothal agreement. Yet she accepted the betrothal gifts, clearly violating the law. My father was so enraged he trembled, flinging a teacup right beside me. What my family detested most was my decision to become a female official without their consent. They even suggested breaking off the engagement several times because of it. They saw it as rebellion, unlike Shinyin's docility. Thus, my family constantly compared me to Shanine, aiming to provoke me. But I refused to heed them. A woman's virtue lies in her lack of talent. Had you remained content in your boudoir, none of this would have happened. That wretched court lady position, appearing in public day after day, utterly improper. I say your heart has grown wild, making you so jealous you cannot tolerate your sisters. Just then, A clear yet commanding female voice rang out from the doorway. To publicly question His Majesty's decision, are these words of Minister Shen an expression of dissatisfaction with the Imperial House? Your servant dares not. Father immediately knelt upon seeing the visitor, cold sweat beading on his brow. The assembled crowd turned in shock and knelt in unison. The visitor was the only legitimate princess of the current emperor, Princess Jing'an. Father steeled himself and stepped forward, attempting to dismiss the incident as mere youthful folly. But before he could finish, the princess cut him off. Minister Shen claims that when someone I value is so humiliated, standing up for themselves is folly? Her tone was calm, yet cold sweat broke out on Father's forehead once more. Now everyone understood, Princess Jing'an had come specifically to support me. At that moment, a eunuch behind the princess presented an imperial edict in bright yellow. I knew what it was, the long-awaited decree conferring the title of court lady. Having passed my assessment with distinction, I was hereby promoted to 6th rank. Chief Clerk. This edict struck like a thunderbolt from a clear sky. As Chief Clerk of the Palace Bureau, I would oversee all palace documents and seals, a position of considerable authority. This was not merely a promotion, but a clear sign of trust and cultivation. More importantly, choosing to become a court lady meant automatically relinquishing marriage. 3 generations prior, our dynasty had Empress Mingkong, who single-handedly established the court lady system. Her decision faced fierce opposition, with civil officials even risking their lives to protest. They argued that if female officials married, became pregnant, or bore children, they would face a high risk of death or require extended periods of recuperation. Yet the Empress overruled all objections and implemented the system. Though she made concessions, official female officials underwent a 3-year probationary period. Those who attained official rank after evaluation were forbidden to marry. Marriage would automatically forfeit their position. My choice was to serve as a court lady for life, never marrying. Truthfully, I had long known of Pei Xiaoheng and Shen Yin's secret affair, and was well aware of both families' indulgent attitudes. That's why I repeatedly requested to dissolve this marriage arranged since childhood. Originally, I intended to preserve dignity for both sides. But the Pei family refused to marry only a concubine's daughter, while the Shen family refused to lose this advantageous alliance. Thus, they entangled me, insisting I marry into their family. If I could single-mindedly pursue becoming a court lady, how could I allow them to manipulate me? Thus, before leaving the palace, I pledged my loyalty to the princess. I also requested the princess herself to deliver the imperial decree, delivering a resounding slap in their faces at this grand betrothal banquet. Yet I never anticipated Shen Yin would lose her composure so completely, insisting on publicly provoking me. But this serves me well. Now, they are the ones who have committed the disgrace, while I remain pure and blameless. Your servant, Shen Yuan, receives the imperial decree with gratitude. I shall not betray the trust of His Majesty and the princess. Amidst my parents' gasps, I accepted the decree, my expression calm as I met everyone's gaze. Rising, I personally pinned the hairpin into Shen Yin's hair. Go marry Prince Pei. I have no interest. Princess Jing'an was clearly pleased with my decisiveness. After personally helping me to my feet, she turned her gaze to the stunned Pei Xiaoheng and Shen Yin. Since Lady Shen has publicly renounced the betrothal and ceded the marriage to her younger sister Shen Yin, with His Majesty's imperial decree before us, this matter is settled. Do either of your families have any objections? In the face of absolute imperial authority, who dared to voice dissent? The Marquis of Yongchang and my father could only bow deeply, indicating no objection. Very well. Princess Jing'an nodded with satisfaction and extended her hand to me. Chief Clerk Shen, palace affairs are complex. Return to the palace with me. I placed my hand gently in hers, straightening my spine. Without a single glance to the side, I walked out of this noisy place. From start to finish, I never once glanced back at Pei Xiaoheng or Shenyin. Upon returning to the palace, Princess Jing'an assigned me to the palace administration office under her jurisdiction. I understood this was both a foothold she granted me and a test. Though the princess currently enjoyed the emperor's deep favor, her power struggle with several adult princes and imperial relatives had reached a critical juncture. She needed more reliable and sharp blades to clear the path for her. I set aside my tangled thoughts and immersed myself in the mountain of paperwork. The tasks the princess assigned me were either tedious, sensitive, or required building connections. I understood this was a test. As I presented her with report after report, each meticulously organized and offering clear strategies, the admiration in her eyes deepened. Xin Yuan, you prove far more capable than this princess anticipated. Setting down the report. Her tone carried a barely perceptible note of satisfaction. It is your highness who has granted this servant an opportunity. I understood clearly that in doing this, I was not only aiding the princess but also myself. Only by demonstrating irreplaceable competence could I secure my footing in the vortex of power. The higher I climbed, the less likely the likes of the Yongchang Marquis household would dare to touch me. Countering power with power was the most effective path to self-preservation and retaliation. I had thought the incident at the betrothal banquet would end there. At the very least, I expected the Yongchang Marquis household and the Shen family to leave me undisturbed for the short term. Yet I underestimated their skill at twisting truth into falsehood. Within half a month, the whispers in the capital had quietly shifted. Out of nowhere, rumors spread that I, Xin Yuan, cared only for power and wealth, a cold-hearted and heartless person, that I had long resolved to pursue a high position as a court lady and remain unmarried for life. Yet I deliberately baited the Yongchang Marquis' heir, hoping to secure a safety net for myself. Only after passing the official examinations did I deliberately seize an excuse at the betrothal banquet to provoke a breach of the engagement. Meanwhile, the Yongchang Marquis' household and the Ministry of Rights' vice minister's household had shown utmost kindness and righteousness. To safeguard my future, they were even willing to have my gentle and charming younger half-sister, Shen Yin, fulfill the marriage contract in my place and endure the injustice. The rumors spread with vivid details. They painted me as an ungrateful, ambitious villainess. Meanwhile, Pei Xiaoheng and Shen Yin were portrayed as the pitiful ones, bearing humiliation for the greater good. Some lowly storytellers even insinuated how I had flattered superiors in the palace. How cunning I must be to have won the princess's favor. They intend to smear you with filth, to ruin your reputation completely. Within the princess's residence, a trusted maid reported the street rumors with indignation. Princess Jing'an's expression hardened as her fingertips tapped lightly on the rosewood tabletop. I underestimated them. Xin Yuan, this affair began because I stood by you. Unable to confront me openly, they target you instead. I shall avenge this wrong for you. A flash of sharpness flickered in her eyes. I'll see whether their tongues are sharper than my blade. Your Highness. I stepped forward, bowing deeply. My tone was calm yet resolute. This servant is grateful for your Highness's protection. But this matter, I request to handle it myself. The princess raised an eyebrow at me. Oh, and how do you propose to do that? Rumors are like weeds, they cannot be completely eradicated by cutting or burning. Only by uprooting them can we eliminate future troubles. Since they dare to twist truth into lies, it is because they rely on my lowly status and lack of influence to prevent me from refuting them. In that case, we must shatter each pillar of their confidence, one by one. Fortunately, leveraging the princess's influence, I uncovered certain information recently. I lifted my head, meeting the princess's gaze. Your servant requests permission to leave the capital for an investigation. Publicly, it will be to audit the Jiangnan Textile Bureau's accounts for your Highness. Privately, I intend to personally investigate the Yongchang Marquis' shadowy dealings in Jingzhou. Some evidence lies buried deep in the mud, it must be unearthed by hand. I stated my intentions to Princess Jing'an. The Yongchang Marquis household has cultivated influence in official circles for years. I refuse to believe they are truly above reproach. Any leverage I can seize will be used to tear a piece of flesh from them. I lifted my head, my gaze unwavering. In public service, Your Highness is in urgent need of capable men. Securing concrete evidence against noble houses would greatly benefit the greater cause. In private, this servant has suffered profound humiliation. Without vengeance, my spirit cannot find peace. Moreover, there is no guarantee the Yongchang Marquis household will not strike against me in the future. Therefore, this servant has resolved to strike first. After a long pause, the princess's lips curved slightly, revealing a knowing smile. You are quite forthright. Go. Someone will contact you. You may freely utilize the resources of the princess's residence. Above, the princess picked up the silver scissors beside her. If you investigate, do it thoroughly and decisively. If not, then don't start at all. With a sharp snip, the scissors severed the moth drawn to the flame. Ensure it is a single, decisive strike to eliminate all future troubles. Your servant understands. 3 days later, I prepared to depart the capital with a light retinue to conduct official business. Yet, on the very street, I unexpectedly encountered Pei Xiaoheng and Shanine. A retinue of servants followed them, their presence imposing. Shanine wore a pitifully helpless expression, yet the eyes that met mine were brimming with defiance. Pei Xiaoheng, feigning deep sorrow, stepped forward to block my path. Yuan, why must you cling to this delusion? For that illusory power, you abandoned your family and me. And what did you gain? Now you're leaving the capital in disgrace. Without the backing of the Pei and Shan families, the princess couldn't wait to cast you aside. Can't you see the truth now? What madness has seized Pei Xiaoheng again? Did they think I disguised myself to leave the city because the princess had rejected me? Forcing my departure? What utter nonsense is this? Just as I was about to unleash a torrent of curses, Shanine spoke in a soft, feeble voice. Sister, even if you hold no affection for Prince Pei, you must think of father and mother. Since you left home, they've worried day and night for you, nearly falling ill. Her seemingly fragile voice, tinged with tears, carried clearly throughout the room. Sister, you've forsaken marriage to become some lowly official. How can father and mother hold their heads high with you acting this way? If you'll only resign that court post at once. Your younger sister is willing to relinquish the position of primary wife to you. I beg you, sister, do not compound your error and tarnish our family's reputation. With that, she reached out to tug at my sleeve, as if I were some unreasonable fool who needed her to sacrifice herself to win me over. Watching their pathetic act of one echoing the other, I could only feel amusement. Step aside. My voice was icy, but Pei Xiaoheng pressed his advantage, reaching to seize my wrist. Yuan, stop being so stubborn. Come back with us. I'll beg father and mother to forgive you. His words cut off abruptly, because I had already whipped my hand around to grab the riding crop hanging beside the saddle. It was a gift from the princess, tanned from rhinoceros hide, uncommonly tough. Crack! A sharp, vicious whip crack split the air. One direct lash landed squarely on Pei Xiaoheng's hand. His affected manner was even more revolting than Shanine's. What are you doing? Shanine abandoned her act of feigned helplessness, lunging forward to pull me from the saddle. Do you think this official would let you off? Another lash. It struck Shanine's veiled face with pinpoint accuracy. The force was so great she let out a piercing scream. Her veil ripped apart, and she stumbled backward, crashing to the ground. A gruesome gash ran from her temple to her jaw, flesh torn open in a horrifying sight. The entire street fell deathly silent. Everyone was stunned by this sudden lash. Shenyin clutched her face, wailing pitifully, crimson blood seeping through her fingers. Pei Xiaoheng, both shocked and furious, pointed at me. Xin Yuan, you dare. Holding the blood-stained whip, I looked down on them, my words as cold as ice. Obstructing official business, not giving you 20 strokes of the cane is already lenient. Pei Xiaoheng, take your insolent, vicious fiancé and get lost. Dare to block my path again, utter another word of abuse. My gaze swept over them, carrying undisguised murderous intent. Next time, this whip won't just strike your faces. With that, I ignored their shock, fear, and venom. Mounting my horse, the steed neighed, carrying me away in a cloud of dust. The pain of disfigurement? Merely interest. The true reckoning has only just begun. 3 months later, joyous news swept through the capital. The Yongchang Marquis household and the Shen family were finally united in marriage. The wedding of the young master, Pei Xiaoheng, and the second young miss, Shen Yin, was lavish and high-profile. To prove to all that they were a match made in heaven, both families sent out invitations far and wide, extending warm welcomes to their guests. 10 miles of crimson bridal procession, drums and gongs resounding. In the wedding hall, the newlyweds performed the 3 bows. Couples mutual bow. The master of ceremonies' resonant voice echoed through the hall. The assembled guests smiled. Some genuine, some forced, offering congratulatory blessings. Just as the couple was about to complete the final bow. Halt! A discordant voice shattered the festive atmosphere. Everyone turned in shock. There I was, dressed in the robes of a 6th-rank palace lady, chief clerk of the Imperial Wardrobe Bureau, striding steadily into the courtyard. Behind me followed a squad of heavily armed guards, their long swords sheathed at their waists. Instantly, all eyes fixed on me. Why is she here? Has she changed her mind and come to steal the bride? Stealing a bride in official attire? This doesn't look like it. Shen Yin abruptly lifted her veil, exchanging a glance with Pei Xiaoheng. They both turned to look at me, their expressions mirroring identical shock. After her initial bewilderment, a flicker of smugness and venom flashed in Shen Yin's eyes. She believed I had finally relented, coming to submit and admit defeat. She even stepped forward, her tone dripping with condescension. Sister? Have you finally seen reason? Today is my wedding day to the crown prince. Your intrusion is utterly improper. However, Shen Yin raised a hand to her mouth, making a request for me to apologize before all the guests, admitting I had slandered Pei Xiaoheng and her innocence. Perhaps then she could beg Pei Xiaoheng to grant me the status of a concubine. That way, I'd have someone to rely on in the future and wouldn't be bullied. Her words drew low snickers from some of the guests. The gazes directed at me brimmed with pity and contempt. Pei Xiaoheng also frowned, his tone laced with impatience and a hint of hidden superiority. Xin Yuan, Iner is magnanimous to grant you this chance. I may overlook past transgressions, but should you persist in your folly, do not blame me for discarding old ties. Watching them play their roles, I felt as though witnessing a farcical charade. A faint, icy smile curved my lips. Concubine? Old ties? I stepped forward slowly, my gaze sweeping over them as if observing 2 clownish buffoons. Gentlemen, you're overthinking things. Ignoring their instantly frozen expressions, I turned to the assembled guests and declared in a clear voice. This official has not come today for personal grievances, but to execute an imperial decree. No sooner had the words left my mouth than an attendant behind me stepped forward, unfurling an imperial edict of bright yellow. Lady Pei of the Yongchang Marquis, colluding with officials of Jingzhou, has committed treason by smuggling military equipment and salt to the barbarian tribes of the northwest. The evidence is irrefutable. She has flouted the law and undermined the foundations of the state. She is hereby stripped of the title of Yongchang Marquis. Her assets confiscated. All involved shall be imprisoned in the Imperial prison to await trial and sentencing. By Imperial decree. The Imperial decree fell upon the hall, plunging it into deathly silence. The festive atmosphere of moments before vanished instantly. In its place came boundless terror and shock. No! Impossible! The Yongchang Marquis turned deathly pale, staggering backward. Pei Xiaoheng was struck as if by lightning, staring at me in disbelief. Xin Yuan! You're lying! You framed us! The smugness on Xin Yin's face vanished instantly, replaced by pallor and terror. She shrieked shrilly. It's you! It must be you! You wretch! Framing us! The Yongchang Marquis' household clung to me like a lifeline, desperately shifting the blame onto me. They even demanded an audience with His Majesty to clear their names. Some uninformed bystanders joined their chorus, creating a truly twisted spectacle of truth and lies. I couldn't be bothered to waste words on them. I simply tossed the crucial ledgers seized from the smuggling ring's lair in Jingzhou onto the ground. Along with the confiscated correspondence, each piece of evidence proving this was the work of the Yongchang Marquis' household. Each piece proved beyond doubt that this was the handiwork of the Yongchang Marquis' household. This was the outcome of my 3-month mission outside the capital. Here are the ledgers, the Yongchang Marquis' household's dealings with the barbarian tribes of the Northwest. The detailed division of spoils. Every transaction. Every case. Crystal clear. With both witnesses and evidence present. How dare you deny it? My gaze, sharp as blades, swept over the ashen-faced Yongchang Marquis and his wife, and over Pei Xiaoheng. Finally, it settled on Xin, who was trembling so violently she could barely stand. Xin, by marrying into this marquisate today, you become a member of the Pei family. This crime of treason, you shall bear its weight alongside them. I waited at the door, deliberately entering only after the ceremony concluded. Only when Xin became the cherished consort of the young master could I pull her from the pinnacle and cast her into the abyss. I swung my hand sharply. Guards! Arrest the entire Pei family and this newly wedded crown prince consort. Yes. Your Highness. The officers behind me immediately stepped forward, mercilessly shackling the struggling, wailing Yongchang Marquis and his entourage. Pei Xiaoheng, his hands pinned behind his back by the guards, still snarled at me in defiance. Xin Yuan, you heartless monster. The once elegant and dignified Marquis now stood with disheveled hair, raving mad, pointing at my nose and cursing viciously. Xin Yuan, may you die a horrible death. Even as a ghost. I won't let you off. I walked before them, looking down at their wretched, defeated forms. When you used blood-stained silver from smuggling to pave this so-called splendid future, did you ever consider the soldiers dying needlessly at the frontier due to substandard weapons? Did you ever think of the common folk suffering from exorbitant prices of smuggled salt? As for dying a miserable death, I smiled lightly, my expression dripping with endless scorn. You should worry first about whether you'll even have a whole corpse left on the execution ground. Led them away. Amidst cries of mercy and the horrified stares of the guests, the entire Yongchang Marquis household was dragged from the wedding hall like dead dogs. I stepped over the drifting crimson silk and walked out of the Marquis' residence. The Yongchang Marquis smuggling case, with irrefutable evidence, shook the court and the realm. The principal offender, the Marquis of Yongchang, along with several core offspring who knew of and participated in the scheme, were sentenced to immediate execution by beheading after a joint trial by the 3 departments. This also implicated numerous officials, both high and low. On the day of the autumn execution, the bloodstains at Kaishiko took 3 full days to wash away. Only then did the glaring crimson begin to fade. As for Pei Xiaoheng, though he hadn't directly participated in the smuggling, investigations revealed he had noticed his family's unusual wealth yet failed to intervene. He had even profited from it. Under the law of collective punishment, he was sentenced to exile 3,000 li away, banished to the harsh, frigid northern frontier for hard labor. He was barred from pardon for life. The once elegant heir to the Yongchang Marquis title was now a disheveled prisoner, weighed down by heavy shackles. Before departure, the escorting officials, following custom, permitted family members or concerned individuals to make arrangements. This served as a final farewell, but it also offered some condemned slaves a path to survival. If a wealthy family was willing to pay to purchase them, they might be spared the torment of exile and become private slaves instead. Though such a status was lowly, at least it meant preserving one's life. At the very least, one wouldn't have to fear meeting an untimely death during the journey to exile. Pei Xiaoheng stood among the prisoners, shackled and chained, his appearance gaunt and hollow-eyed. He never imagined he would face such a day. But the Yongchang Marquis' household had fallen into ruin. Families who had once associated with them would not want to be tainted by such misfortune. No one would come to buy him. Then, a middle-aged man dressed in silk, plump and with a large nose, strolled over, guided by a servant. His gaze swept over the prisoners, finally settling on Shenyin beside Pei Xiaoheng. Shenyin also wore prison garb, her hair disheveled, the whip scar on her face, neglected and untreated, looked even more gruesome. Months of imprisonment had stripped away all her pride, leaving only fear for the future. I knew her thoughts. Exile to hard labor was worse than death. The fat man stroked his chin, eyeing Shenyin a few times before clicking his tongue. Her looks are ruined, but she still looks fit for work. Buying her to grind rice at the estate wouldn't be a bad idea. At those words, Shenyin lunged toward the bars as if clutching a lifeline. Forgetting Pei Xiaoheng stood beside her, she cried out urgently, "Master! Buy me! Buy me! I can do anything! Laundry, cooking, grinding grain, farming, and..." She bit her lip, her eyes softening. "Please buy me! I don't want to be exiled." Pei Xiaoheng stared at Shenyin in disbelief, his voice hoarse. "Iner, you." But Shenyin didn't even glance at him, instead pleading obsequiously to the fat man. "Master, take me with you. I'm more useful than any beast of burden." The plump man seemed pleased with her compliance. He chuckled and immediately settled the deal with the constables for Shenyin. The transaction was swiftly concluded. Shenyin eagerly removed her shackles. Like fleeing a plague, she didn't glance back at Pei Xiaoheng once, instead clinging tightly to the fat man's heels, even carrying a hint of relief at surviving the ordeal. Pei Xiaoheng watched helplessly as the woman he had once deeply loved, the woman he had betrayed his betrothal for, so easily abandoned him at the final moment. Clinging to such a despicable man, solely to evade sharing hardship with him. Pfft! Rage surged through him, and a mouthful of blood erupted from Pei Xiaoheng's throat. Darkness engulfed his vision as he collapsed stiffly onto the filthy ground. Shenyin merely glanced back once, then walked away without looking back, following her new master. All of this was witnessed by me. Shenyin likely didn't know that this buyer was actually someone I had secretly arranged. I knew Shenyin's nature all too well. She would never choose to endure hardship with Pei Xiaoheng. As long as someone rescued her from the torment of exile, she would agree to anyone. How could I possibly let her find a refuge so easily? What awaited Shenyin was the most grueling, backbreaking labor in the remotest estate under my name. She would endure a life of servitude, deprived of freedom, subjected to abuse, neither able to live nor die. In stark contrast to the Pei and Shen families stood the Imperial court's reward for me. For cracking such a major case, seizing vast illicit funds, and purging corrupt elements, my contribution was paramount. His Majesty, greatly pleased, issued a special decree promoting me to 5th-rank clerk of the Palace Bureau of Attendance. This position granted me real authority overseeing palace documents, seals, and personnel assignments. I could establish my own office, enjoying the same salary and ceremonial privileges as officials of equal rank. This meant I possessed my own residence, subordinates, and power independent of my family. My father, however, suddenly grew much more attentive toward me. Though the Shin family hadn't been directly involved in the Yongchang Marquis incident, we were still implicated. My father was demoted 3 ranks in exile to serve as an official in Lingnan. The journey there was long and arduous, and Lingnan was such a wild and remote region. Calling it a demotion was little different from exile. My father was nearly 50, how could he endure such torment? Yet he had nowhere else to turn. In the end, he remembered me, the son he had once scorned. Time and again, he brought my mother to plead for an audience, appealing to blood ties for my help. But I refused to see them each time. Days later, my father departed anyway, taking my mother with him to Lingnan. The journey ahead was fraught with peril. Whether they'd survive to reach their destination was uncertain. On the day of their departure, I stood upon the city walls and watched them leave with my own eyes. A deep sigh of pent-up frustration finally escaped my lips. Our familial bond was always shallow, but I shall never regret it. Side story. One day, my superior, a seasoned 3rd-rank lady official, invited me to accompany her after my shift ended. Her smile warm. Shinji has earned great merit. Today, I'll take you to a fine place to unwind. Somewhat puzzled, I followed her into a carriage, arriving before an elegant and distinctive pavilion. The plaque above its entrance bore the characters Pavilion of the Pure Breeze, suggesting a gathering place for literati. Upon entering, however, I discovered the attendants were all young men of striking beauty and varied temperaments. Some played zither, others brewed tea, while some conversed and laughed. Upon seeing us, they all bowed respectfully, their gazes gentle. A strikingly handsome man descended from the upper floor and walked directly to my senior's side. Long time no see. My senior companion reached into his sleeve with practiced ease, though nothing was visible beneath the fabric. The upward motion of his hand was unmistakable. In that instant, I understood the nature of this place. This was a brothel specifically established for powerful female officials and noble ladies of the Imperial clan, only the roles were reversed. Noticing my dazed expression, she covered her mouth with a soft laugh and murmured, "Rules are rigid, but people are flexible. We court ladies serve the nation, toiling day and night. Should we be denied even a little human pleasure? Rest assured, the men here understand the rules and are clean. The contraceptive potion is prepared for them." The elder winked at me with a smile. Her words carried a hint of playful amusement and utter certainty. "We have power and wealth, we seek only pleasure and ease. Why should we bear their children or manage their households? Pure enjoyment. That's all." My heart jolted, as if some shackle had snapped with a sharp crack. So, stepping beyond the confines of the inner courtyard, the world could be this vast. A woman's life needn't be confined to clinging to men, fighting over them, or tending to husband and children. She could possess power, a career, and even pure, unburdened pleasure that belonged solely to her. Gazing at the meticulously cultivated, handsome men within the pavilion, their sole purpose to please women, and witnessing the senior's unabashed, uninhibited enjoyment, I paused in astonishment before finding release. A delighted smile curved my lips. The senior was right. I stepped forward, walking boldly into this new world, one that belonged to them, and would soon belong to me. I want power. I want freedom. I want all the joys this world has to offer. Only then would my struggle to break free from the cage, my choice to walk this path of thorns and glory as a court lady, be truly worthwhile. The end.